12 tribes posted at the gates. Watches on the wall, got that Jasper on the face. Revelation takeaways, this is just the welcome, but you gotta keep the faith to stay. Feeling like Kobe on the breakaway. Like I've been writing rhymes on a paper plane, waiting on the Lord till he make a way. Why these hooks got them reaching for the skies like Kareem? I'm too different. Different for this world like a dean. Too much scripture for this world to try to shackle up my soul. With my back against the wall, I get back up with my bros. See the jackal in the field, I can't tackle this alone. First Adam in the grave, second Adam on the throne.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to the Closer to Home podcast, where we talk about all things culture through the lens of being a believer. I'm Chuck.
Rocky. This is episode 1. It's really episode 1, bro. This is surreal.
Let's get it.
Surreal. I've been wanting to tell you how I felt today because I've been feeling crazy today, and I had this crazy thought. But before I tell you, I want you to tell me, like, just waking up today, how'd you feel knowing like what we've been trying to do for 2 years? Like today's the day.
It felt like game day. I can't hold you.
Bro.
Like literally that feeling where we're in just like a special game. You feel me? Like something like a rivalry joint. Like when we're like, you know what I'm saying? Like Camden game, Cross game, like one of them township joints. Like literally where I woke up this morning like, let's get it.
Bro.
Like yeah.
Literally, it felt like game day. Like that's literally what I was gonna say. Like it felt literally like game day.
That's tough.
But the crazy thing is, like, I don't know if I told you this, but when I actually stopped playing football, I was talking to my brother. I was talking to Quincy, and we was on the phone. I'm like, bro, like, there's never gonna be another thing that I do in life that's gonna feel like football. Like the feeling of a touchdown or like the feeling of an interception. You know what I'm saying? Fourth quarter, 3rd and 19, you get the first down. Like I'm him. I'm never going to feel that again. Like nothing's gonna fill that void. So like today, like when I felt like it's game day, I literally was like, yo, like God really filled that void. Like literally, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you thought that 3rd and 19 converting felt good. Like wait till you convert a 19-year-old. Like he literally was like, I'll fill that void. And the best thing about it is like football, as much as I loved it, it was always gonna be temporary. You know what I'm saying? True. The NFL stands for not for long. So it was always gonna be temporary. So with this purpose, to know that like we can do this forever. We signed a contract that's lifetime with a max extension for eternity.
Son.
So it's like, bro, today was so surreal. I just been praising, worshiping all day. But before we get into it though, I do want you to tell everybody that's gonna be watching this, like, what should they expect from this podcast?
All right. Man, all right, so what y'all should be expecting from the pod is literally an opportunity to get to know us personally, just who it is that we are as people, who we are as followers. But I think that the insight that you're going to get is to the understanding and know of like everything isn't always what it seems. So the Christians that you know, the followers of Christ that you know, the people who are in the streets, whatever it is that you want to call it, people aren't cookie cutter, you feel me? And so I think that literally what they're going to understand and get to know is us on a personal level, and you know, they're going to get a chance to follow us as we follow Christ. And I feel like we are going to represent Jesus in a way that is bold, unapologetic, and
super unapologetic.
You feel me? And just love, just new. I feel like it's just going to be something that's novel, just to be able to like see people that look like ourselves, talk like us, but you know, we got some great things going for us, living great lives, you know, fruitful, but you know, still on a journey, still seeking.
100%. Nah, co-sign that 100. I think for me, one of the things that's like happening right now is like in this culture, in our generation, is everyone is like creating platforms and everyone's going out to provide a solution or an answer to what our culture, what our generation is questioning, what we're lacking, things like that. So they're going out on podcasts and different social media outlets to try to answer these questions that we're all yearning to know. But what they're putting out there is all subjective. You know what I'm saying? It's rooted in your environment, your experiences, your research, your goals, or whatever, and it resonates with the people who have similar experiences, similar environments, things like that. And the people who oppose it are the people who or on the opposite side. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying, different experiences. There's no answer, there's no objective answer, overarching solution other than God.
Word.
So like this podcast is to give everyone an answer to all the questions that we've been looking for when it comes to purpose, when it comes to relationship, when it comes to marriage, like all these things that we've been looking for answers about. We're going to have to hear what God has to say about it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And if you agree or disagree, take it up with him.
Word.
He's been waiting to hear from you anyway. So take it up with him. So yeah, I think that's what they should expect from here. Yeah, so just at this point, like, just tell them what we about to get into.
All right, that's a bet. Well, first, what we're going to get into is we're going to talk about your first encounter with Jesus and what that's going to look like.
And this is crazy because like I really never told him this.
Yeah, I'm
like
intrigued.
you would think that like we've had this conversation before, but like never talked to him about this. But like you already know like when God made himself real to me. And that was when, you know, our grandmother was about to die, and like that's when God showed himself to me, like I'm really here. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, okay, there's really a God that answers. There's a God that cares. There's a God that loves. And I don't know this God, and I never cared to get to know this God, but now I need to get to know this God. Right. So the first thing that I did was I cast my biggest burden on him. And at the time, that burden was, I say, for like 3 to 4 years, like 2017 to like 2020, I was dealing with like realizing that like I'm not a good dude. Like I'm dark, I'm toxic. Like there's things in me that I'm just not good. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know how to get that out of me. And the veil that was like over me, was over my face, was I am good because I have such a huge heart. I have such a big heart. You know what I'm saying? I love people so much, and I support people so much. And I didn't know anyone around me that loved as hard as I did. So that's what made me think I was good. But you can have a big heart and be a narcissist.
Word.
You can have a big heart and be, you know, manipulative and be a liar and be a cheater. And any toxic trait you can think of, you can love hard and still be that. So when I realized that, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to be good. And at the time, there was no like God-fearing men around me to help, you know, navigate this for me.
Yeah.
There's no man with high morals and good standards to help me with this. So me trying to figure it out on my own, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna stop doing the bad stuff that I'm doing. But that doesn't make you a good person. That's like if you eat a bunch of candy and then you get a cavity, and you're like, okay, let me just stop eating candy. Like the cavity's still there.
Yeah.
You need a filling. And I'm looking for that filling, and I couldn't find it. So you fast forward now, like God has now made himself known to me. And at this point, I've already failed out of one relationship. I'm in another relationship. I feel unworthy in this relationship. And I'm coming to him and I'm like, God, like, what do I do? Like, how do I be better? How do I be a better person? And I was at the point where it felt like in a movie when the main character's like running from like a killer or a monster or somebody like that. And they hit like that dead end. And you know the killer's coming around the corner. And right before that person comes, like a new character comes, he opens that door. He's like, hurry up, run in here.
Jeez.
I was in that moment. And literally like the person that was chasing me was that old identity, that old nature. And I've been running from it for 4 years. And I was at the point where I was about to just accept it. Like, bro, you're not going to be different. And right before it was Jesus. He's like, you're in here. And even in those movies, like, they don't know who that person is that's saying, like, run in here. They don't even know what's in that room.
Yeah, like you said, it's always a new character.
Yeah, but they just know their fate if they stay. And that's what it was. I knew if I stayed, I was going to have to accept that I'm that person. So I went. And for people who don't know what that looks like, that's prayer. But okay. I'm in there. I'm in that room, and I'm like, Jesus, like, what do I do? And he was like, oh, die. Just die. And I'm like, I don't get it. And he made it so plain to me. He was just like, if you keep trying to build up this dark toxic person that you are, the epitome of what you'll become is you'll just adapt to the darkness. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can see in the room because your eyes have adapted to the darkness. So you can move like there's light in there, but there's not. And he was like, if you just die to that person, to that old nature, like I'll put light in your temple. I'll give you a new nature, a new creation. And I accepted it.
All right, so real quick, I want to go back to where you were saying you were running, you kind of hit this dead end. Something was chasing you.
Yeah.
And Jesus had opened the door. And you said what that looks like is prayer.
Yeah.
Like, what did Jesus open in the door? Like, what led you to be like, I'm going to pray? Like, what was it that was just like, I'm going to get down on my knees and just...
So, we already knew about God due to our grandmother being a minister our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we already considered ourselves Christians. But I never actually seeked God.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never really a Christian. So I knew the cliche things like, oh, you're supposed to pray before you do these things. I knew what prayer was. I knew what fasting was. You know what I'm saying? I knew these things, but I never actually did it. So because I knew like this is what prayer is supposed to be, I'm like, that's what I have to do. The first time I genuinely prayed was when our grandmother was dying.
Mm.
So I knew what genuine prayer does. So in that moment, I came and I prayed and I got on my knees and I was genuine and I was vulnerable in that moment. And I also know the name of Jesus. So I called on it, not knowing that that door was going to open when it happened because I felt it. So, after I accepted it, like when he told me just die and I accepted it, there was an encounter that I felt where I felt identity, I felt purpose, I felt joy. Like it was like an encounter with a triune God. It was Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Like I felt the whole thing. And that's salvation. And the crazy thing about it is that salvation, no Bible, no altar call, no pastor, no church. That's just calling on the name of Jesus, seeking his face, and he comes. So that's when I'm like, no one can tell me that Jesus is not real. He's not a living God, and he doesn't care. So that's that's my encounter. Now we already know because we talked and you told me that you've had so many encounters with Jesus that you can't really think of the first one, which that's a testimony in itself. When Pastor Dr. Matthew Stevens in the middle of his sermon, he's like, I can preach that. Like that's literally what I was thinking. He said, I can preach that. But if you had to tell somebody what an encounter with Jesus looks like, give me one encounter that you've had that this would show someone this is what it looks like to encounter Jesus.
The one encounter that I would definitely say, I would want also like everyone else to experience for real, was I had just given my life to Christ, and I remember Sadira, one of my best friends, she was like literally somebody who was like in the faith, like just a few steps ahead of me. And she was just like, yo, come here with me, come here with me, come here with me. So I'm like, all right, bet. So just put me in all the right spaces. So in my head, what I was doing was I was reading my Bible, I was going to church, I got connected with like on-campus ministry at Hampton, like all that stuff. Like I was doing what I was supposed to do. And Rutgers has a on-campus ministry, A-Life.
Shout out to A-Life.
Shout out to A-Life, you feel me? And I went on a retreat. So at this retreat, there's they had this speaker, and this boy was mad funny. He's funny, like heavy set white dude. And he was just so raw. Like he was so raw, like in his like opening joint. Like the first thing he said, when we're all like standing around like concert style, he's still on the stage. And he's like, yo, the first time I thought about God like seriously as an adult, he was like, I was smoking. He was like, I was getting high. He was like, and like literally in his
So you mean raw in the sense of like telling you like what it is, like the things that like churches usually try to not say?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, for the first, like my very first time even like honestly thinking about Jesus was I was fried, and I was like, he just caught my attention. I'm like, word, like like 2-3 months ago, that's exactly like where I was at. So like I want to listen to this guy. I'm at this church retreat, like people were talking like, what's up, what you got to say? Because like now I'm tuned in. And he was like literally like, he was like, yeah, I was on stage, I was like sitting in the car with my boy, and I'm like, yo, you ever think about God? I was like, yo, bro. But so like literally, so like that kind of just like put all of my like walls down for real. Like being at the retreat, I'm like, all right, like I can get behind this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this is Jesus, you know, and he preached Bible and he was talking about, you know, he saved, you know what I'm saying, and he got delivered from smoking and things like that. And I'm like, all right, like that's hot. You know, I know that, you know, if, you know, somebody could be telling me like this was a life that they lived then and this is a life that they live now, like, you know, like, that's somebody I can get behind, you know. And so I remember we was in this worship session, bro, and I got my hands up and I'm praying and like literally I just got tired. I got so like desperate. I'm like, God, I don't want to lift my hands and not know that I'm lifting it for you. Like I'm like, I
Mm.
don't know if you're real. Like I really like I've been praying, I'm reading the Bible, I've been going to church, I've been going to these Bible studies and stuff. I'm like I know that you here, like I know that I've been like doing these things. I'm like, but I can't say like without a shadow of a doubt if I, you know what I'm saying, do like that you're here, that you're real,
Yeah.
that you exist. I'm like, I hope, you know, and I have a lot of faith that you do, but there's nothing like for certain. And I'm like show me that I'm not doing this for nothing.
The normalcy of serving and like doing the works but still questioning
Mm,
is so normal. And like not only do some people condemn people for that, but also like people who are doing it feel guilty. So
mm,
it's crazy that you're here to share like one of your best encounters, and that was while you were questioning him. Because it's like people can condemn you, you can feel guilty, but like he'll still be there.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like that's so crazy. But you can finish it though.
Nah, and so I'm literally like got my hands raised and like I feel like this is like mundane. I'm like, yo, like I need to know for a fact. Like I'm like almost about to give up. I'm like, yo, like I'm so like vulnerable right now. I'm so like angsty. I'm like, yo, I need you to tell me, show me, how do I know that this is for certain a real thing? And then literally like the other foot dropped. Like it was
Hmm.
crazy. So it just felt like at this point in time, like I was like the only person inside of the room, right? And you know how like they say how they say like babies are like drunk until like they reach like consciousness. Like all babies act like old like drunk people, like they're
Yeah,
always just like walking
absolutely.
around like
Yeah.
doing random stuff. And I felt like literally like I was conscious that I was in the presence of
Mm.
someone. And I'm like, huh? And then like I'm realizing like, oh, like God, you are real. Like Jesus, this is you. And like I felt like literally like in the and it wasn't like a scary presence, like or something
Yeah.
like you know, like shaking me to my boots. But like I was shook into the core of like, oh my gosh, like I was in awe. Like I'm literally like, yo, God, like I'm before you. And I'm like, yo, literally, I'm like you're everywhere, like you're all around me. And I was just like literally like just taking it back, bro. I was like, yo, like you're real?
Yeah.
Like this is what people be feeling like. Like tears came to my eyes. I was literally just like dropped down to my knees and I'm just like, yo, like this is crazy. Like I cannot believe that like how like you know like just being in awe. Like what does it mean to be in awe?
I have a question for you, but one thing I want to say before I get to that question is how so many people want to like hear God's voice. They want God to answer so many questions and things
Yeah.
like that. But they don't realize that if he just stands there, like his presence
Yeah.
will literally solve everything.
Yeah.
Like it's better than any therapy session. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anything that like darkness and light can't, they don't mix.
So,
So anything dark that you're going through will literally like go if he just stands there.
oh
Like
my God.
so it's like it's so crazy that you just in his presence and that was enough. That was enough. But my question though is for anyone who's like not seeking his face, not seeking that type of encounter that you had, an encounter that I had, what would make them so hesitant? Or what would make them so comfortable in where they're at that they wouldn't even go after that type of encounter?
Honestly, and I would assume that most people are exactly where I was. Like I was like, yo, like I'm having too much fun right now. Like life is fun, and I know that if I go this route and all this stuff is real, then something's gonna have to change.
Yeah.
And I believe that like literally it makes you like a slave to your freedom for real. Because like you
That
just
gets me. I'm sorry, it just geeks. Slave to freedom get like, oh my goodness, that goes over people's heads.
bro, because you could do anything, but not everything is good for you, right?
Yeah.
And if you literally just start thinking about like all the like j- I feel like everyone knows, everyone has a homie, has a friend who's like always on a different type time.
Yeah.
Who's like, I'm gonna just try da-da-da-da, I'm gonna try
Mm.
da-da-da-da. And it's just like, yo, you really don't gotta do that. Like I promise you don't have to see how this joint ends. And it's like they're literally a slave to every like they're just like I can do anything, I can try anything. And it's like you may not succeed at all of those, but just the attempt. And it literally makes you a slave to your freedom. You're like, yo, like I
Yeah.
don't want to be enclosed or follow any rules because then and but if I could just like bring that all around, I feel like when ultimately you become a slave to like your freedom, you get caught up in sin because you're doing everything it is that your heart wants you to do that makes you feel good, instant gratification.
Yeah.
And if you're a slave to sin, that means that basically you're free from the obligation to do right.
Mm.
That's
You're
that's
free
what I
from
would
the
say.
obligation to do right.
Because again, it's like, yo, like if you're gonna be tied down by this joint and you you're opting not to even look at the other side to be like, oh, like maybe this joint is real. Maybe it's like I'm gonna stay over here because I know that again, if this Jesus thing is real, I'm gonna have to change how I talk to my family, my mom and dad. I'm gonna have to change how I treat my spouse. I'm gonna have to change how I talk to people, gossip, things like that. And it's just like, why do that when I can do all these things that make me feel good, da, 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 and it's like you got it messed up, and it's just
Yeah.
like, um, you actually end up like like paying for everything it is that you sell, and it's like, and if
Yeah.
you're paying for all of these things that you're putting out into the world, i.e., like, you know what I'm saying, things that ultimately kill you,
Literally.
then it's like that's what you get at the end of the day. Like you are, you're on a path of like seeking things that just make you feel good in the moment.
Mm. Two things came to my head when you said that. The first thing is I think that I first of all I agree with everything you said, but one is I think that another thing that like repels them is even the thought of having to no longer live in sin and have that freedom. Some people think they gotta do it themselves,
Mm,
and they don't realize that if you come to Christ, like there's a spirit that will help you. God will help you.
mm.
So that repels them. But the other thing that I think is so dangerous is that it'll make you create your own God, right?
That's good. Say more about
And
that.
so what I mean by that is you create this God that you believe is the most compatible with you. It's a God that
Mm,
is okay with your purpose and your calling that you tell yourself is. A God that is on your time. A God that, you know what I'm saying, knows your heart. Like, and that's the God that you think is the most compatible with you. But it's like, no, like the God that might be a little bit more strict he's worth it, and he's better than the God that you think is more compatible. And I promise you, like the one true living God is actually more compatible because he made you in his image.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? I think the perfect example I can probably give is like my mom, like our grandma. Like she's a little strict. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, she like no water guns, no cap guns, no
yeah.
nothing.
Facts.
Can't watch Harry Potter.
No
That's
Harry Potter.
yeah,
Okay.
that's witchcraft. Like you know what I'm saying? And we could have put her at arm's length. Like she too strict. I don't want that. I want to have my freedom.
Hmm.
And we could have just told ourselves like, we have a grandmother that's okay with us getting bad grades, okay with us drinking and smoking stuff like that, and forfeited the opportunity to build a relationship with who we know is the one of the best women in our lives.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like mom with all her strictness is worth getting to know authentically.
That's
Like
good.
God is worth it authentically. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And the crazy thing is we have friends that will complain and talk about how they fell into their circumstances and their issues due to the neglect from their parents. You know what I'm saying? If my parents had more structure or they were more strict or whatever like that, I wouldn't be in this situation. Then why would you create a God that neglects you? Why would you create a God that's cool with you having all this freedom and cool with you living in sin when there is a God that will literally protect you, provide for you, guide you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because if you think that you fell into bad circumstances because of a worldly father neglecting you, like your spiritual father's neglect, well, listen, that's kind of where I'm at with it, though. It's dangerous. It's kind of what I'm saying. It's just dangerous. So that's where I'm at with it. But I think we're gonna wrap this up. I feel like this episode was more of just like having them get to know us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we're gonna get into some episodes where we're gonna touch on what's going on in the culture, what's going on in the church, what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that this resonated with y'all, but definitely make sure that y'all tap in with the pod, like, subscribe, share, comment, and when we get into the nitty gritty, make sure y'all soil rich. We out.
Grown, that's honesty. Foundation still strong as Amish swings. You tell me God ain't real, but can't promise me. Yeah, I remember dying in the pit. Now I'm walking on the water like I'm Simon out the ship. Yeah.